I have a tier maker list here. And it is all of the Coen Brothers films. Now, are the Coen Brothers the greatest directors of all time? I don't know about greatest. They've made some pretty great films. I might know some of the movies, but not know them as Coen Brothers movies. So I'm looking at this list, and I have seen every single one of these. I don't want to say I'm a fanboy for the Coen Brothers. I'm not. Because I'm going to have a couple of picks on here that are unpopular for folks. So picks that people are not going to like. And there's a couple of really obvious ones too. Now I know we rated Nicolas Cage movies earlier. And that video will be up on YouTube next week, Monday. But since we've rated Nick Cage movies, let's start with Raising Arizona. That is an A for me. I haven't seen it in a long time. It's one I haven't seen in a while, but it's the first Coen Brothers movie that got some mainstream attention. And Nick Cage is great in it. I mean, he's exactly the way that character needed to be. Perfect casting. You did miss the Nick Cage one. It was Saturday night. It was late Saturday night. I did it late. My energy level wasn't super high, but it's still a good one. And it's missing a few movies from 2021 because, you know, you got to keep up with that. The guy's in like 4 movies a year. But you can watch that on my YouTube channel on Monday. So I'll just start with Raising Arizona. Raising Arizona is an A for me. It's like I said, it's not something I go back to and watch all that regularly, but when it's on, I'll watch it, and it's still just as funny as it was when I saw it the first time. Let's get an obvious one out of the way. Big Lebowski is S tier, and anyone who thinks otherwise, no. They're not your friend. They're not someone you should report them to the police, actually. Okay? The Big Lebowski is a masterpiece through and through. The only problem with The Big Lebowski is some people quote it too much. That's the problem I have with The Big Lebowski. Everything about the film, though, is flawless. I saw it in a theater. It was right around my birthday when it came out. I was in college. I was a senior in college when that came out. So that tells you how old I am. Where's the money, shithead? There's so many good quotes in the film, and some of them are a little more obscure than others, but it's possible to overquote the film and to rub everything and just pound everything into the ground. That's not the movie's fault. It's so original. It's so funny. It's got a decent detective story wrapped into all of it. I don't know that I can say anything about The Big Lebowski that hasn't already been said a million times. Every single piece of casting is flawless. Would I change one thing about it? The cowboy narrator is kind of funny at the start, but then you're like, why is he here at the bar at the end? I'm kidding. Like, there's nothing you would change about this movie. It's a classic. So, I'm gonna go with another S tier, and that's Fargo. Now, I grew up in North Dakota. I had to shake my accent. I rounded my O's. Oh yeah, you betcha. I had a North Dakota accent. And I went away to junior college in a different state, and people made fun of me for it. And I didn't realize that I even had an accent. Then I saw that movie with my, at the time, the girl I was seeing and her sister and her dad. We all went and saw it. And we walked out of there, and they all were laughing their asses off at me. And I'm like, what? I don't talk like that. I can't really even fake it now. My accent wasn't that bad. Not as bad as anybody in the movie. But it was bad enough to where people noticed it in a different state. Enough about my accent, though. Fargo was the first movie that really introduced the North Dakota, Minnesota accent to people. And maybe I got made fun of a little bit more when that movie came out. But I don't mind. I have that poster. That is the original. I have the original two-sided one sheet of Fargo. That is the original film poster. I have that. Actually, I should frame that. I should frame it. It's in a tube right now. I should frame it. Yeah, you're right, Lane Train. I don't know how to put Fargo above S tier. And here's the thing: if you're ranking these two, because I'll go back and I will order them on each of the tiers. I used to work at a film rental place, and I also we would get once a month. We would get posters shipped to our rental store. Some of them were actual one-sheets, two-sided one-sheets. Some of them were just home video posters. But I also would buy posters myself. So there was a store in Denver, Colorado that sold movie posters, and it was great. And I bought quite a few one-sheets, two-sided one-sheets, ones that were made for light boxes. So I have quite a few original posters. They're all wrapped up in tubes, and well, a couple of them are framed. But most of them are wrapped in tubes. Not sure if this is blasphemy. I haven't watched Fargo yet. Want to, just in the long backlog of unseen. I'm past the point of really guilting people about not having seen movies. There's plenty of movies I haven't seen. So I've seen every movie on this list, but that doesn't mean, like, I used to buy movies for a living. That was my day job. I was a buyer for Blockbuster Corporate. Before that, I was a buyer for a company called Hastings. It was my job to watch movies. And so I've seen a decent amount of film. But the Coen Brothers, I watched a lot of them because I wanted to. Because I love their style. I love the way they tell stories. And they're so unique. The scripts that they choose are so unique, or the way they write is just extremely unique. And I love it. I love so much of their work. Blood Simple, A. This is their very first film. Very Hitchcock, extremely incredible for a debut film. The only reason it's not an S, like in terms of debut films from a first-time director or directors, it is incredible what they accomplished with almost no budget. It's still a good movie today. It still holds up really well, and it's kind of a Texas type tale of murder. It's a film noir. It's, like I said, it's very Hitchcock inspired. It's a really good script. I'm putting it as an A because the pacing is a little bit slower than a lot of their other films. So it's just a pacing thing. Rewatching it, the pacing stuck out to me a little bit more. It's a little more methodical than most of their films. I like methodical pacing from some of the directors, and some of their stuff is more methodically paced, and I'm okay with it. And this, it just lags a little bit in the middle for me. So it's an A, but it's a high A. Intolerable Cruelty. It's George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones at, you would maybe even say, at peak times for them, maybe a little bit before Clooney's peak. Rewind. It's just boring, and it's not really funny. I'm sorry, it's not. Like the leads, the script is okay. It just doesn't work as a movie for me at all. Hudsucker Proxy. It's better than Intolerable Cruelty, but for me, it's definitely lower tier. C might even be a little high, honestly. It might be just a skosh below C, like C minus. Well, Intolerable Cruelty is, like, here's the thing. It's a D for Coen Brothers films. It would be mid-tier if it was any other director. But for them, the bar is so much higher. It's just an okay movie. But it's not really that funny. That's the thing with it. Okay, let's knock out a couple more S tiers. No Country for Old Men lives up to the hype. And I'm telling you, the first time I saw the film, I felt like I'd been punched. Like, I couldn't believe what they accomplished. And the fact that it won all those Oscars was incredible. It is just, it's an allegory, which is the one thing that kept me from really loving it the first time I saw it, was, is this an allegory or is this supposed to be real? And towards the end, I'm like, I don't think this is supposed to be real. I think this is supposed to be an allegory. Every other time I've watched it since, I've probably watched it 4 or 5 times total, it gets better. And the performances and the pacing, it's methodic, but it's consistent all the way through the film, even with a couple of action scenes that are just brutal violence. Oh man, it's a hard movie to say you love, but I love that film. Now, ranking it in this, we'll get to that in a minute. The Lady Killers. I'm putting this as a B. Now, I haven't seen the original, so I couldn't tell you if the original is as good or better. It's watchable, it's forgettable, but it's kind of funny. Good cast. Tom Hanks is in it. I mean, come on. B might be a little generous, and as I spread the rest of these out, maybe it drops down to a C, maybe a high C, but right now for me, it's low B. Miller's Crossing. Another S tier. It is a crime drama, period drama. It is... Miller's Crossing was the first Coen Brothers film that you could tell that these guys were not fucking around. Like Blood Simple, incredible movie. Raising Arizona, great movie. They made another one before that, I'm trying to think. Hudsucker was before Miller's Crossing, but Miller's Crossing was so original and dark, and by the end of it, again, you feel like you've been punched, and you're like, holy fuck. They are incredible directors. And it's a little bit more film nerd than some of their other works. And for me, that's why No Country and Fargo and Big Lebowski are better than Miller's Crossing. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now. So I'm going to tell you, Miller's Crossing is going to be towards the end, but it's still an S. Those three films, Big Lebowski, Fargo, No Country for Old Men, they are all great movies, darkly funny, or just straight funny if it's Big Lebowski. You can either be a film nerd and just appreciate the shit out of the way they set all their scenes, the way they blocked everything, all the lighting, the way they just compose the scenes are beautiful. But you can also just watch them as pure entertainment. Miller's Crossing is mostly film nerd. It doesn't play as much as pure entertainment as the other three. Now, someone might argue with me on that and might say Miller's Crossing has some mainstream appeal. I don't think it does. But the other three do have a lot of mainstream appeal, as you can tell when you look at the box offices. Haven't seen Miller's Crossing. Miller's Crossing is one of their best films. And if you've seen all these three, I would highly recommend you check it out. Just know it is not a satisfying, light-hearted romp. It's not like that at all. It's a pretty dark crime drama. Inside Lewin Davis. Am I saying that right? Lewyn is the name. Lewin Davis. Inside Lewin Davis. I'm putting it as an A. I've seen it one time, but there's a lot in that film that stuck with me. It is about a folk musician that's struggling. It's kind of Bob Dylan-y, but the performances in it are so subtle. It is probably one of the best actor movies that the Coen Brothers have ever done. Not that they don't do good acting in their films. They don't direct well. They do. But Inside Lewin Davis is... yeah. Oh god, what's his name? Poe Dameron from Star Wars. He's been in a bunch of stuff. I love him as an actor. Oh, Oscar Isaac. I was like, the guy with two names. He is really good in this movie, but it's very subtle, very understated. It's a small film. By the end of it, it's time. You won't feel like you wasted your time, but if you're expecting something bigger scale, you're not going to get it. It's very small. It feels like an indie, but made by brilliant people. So, for me, it's an A, but it's a low A. Maybe even a high B. Some people think this is one of the Coen Brothers' best films. I can't argue with them, because there's an argument to be made that it is one of their best films. Okay, let's get a couple of controversial picks out of the way. Hail Caesar. This is a C- at best. I'm sorry. I get the humor in it, the setting, the blacklist, Hollywood. Anytime Hollywood people make a film about Hollywood, I roll my eyes and I'm like, you'd better be good, because if you're taking your inspiration from the thing that you do for a living, it's tired to me. It's played out. Hey, I wrote a script about an out-of-work screenwriter. Shut up. Like, honestly, do we need another movie with a script about an out-of-work screenwriter? Right? Like, Swingers was the last movie to do out-of-work actors or filmmakers and to do it well. All right? Ever since Swingers, it's just been the same crap. So, Hail Caesar, I don't want to hear arguments about why this is a good film. It's not. Now, did I have higher expectations? When you look at the cast is phenomenal. And the setting and the concept behind it, I'm like, I'm on board. It just didn't gel together for me at all. And I didn't like it. Is it better than Hudsucker? No. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to give you another controversial pick. And some people like this movie, but I'm telling you, Burn After Reading, I hated this movie. I hated it. Hated it. I don't think I laughed once in it. No, correction. I laughed a couple times at Brad Pitt, which is the whole point, right? He's the doofus in the movie. The rest of the movie was just... I bet it was a really good book, but I didn't give a shit about the movie at all. I did not enjoy it. It's D. Brad Pitt in the closet was the only funny part. Yeah. Brad Pitt was funny in like 2 scenes in that movie, and it didn't work for me. I've seen people argue that it's one of the funniest Coen Brothers movies. You can have that opinion. I just don't share it. Koiser agrees with me on Burn After Reading. It left perplexed when it ended. I was like, that's it? And again, Coen Brothers, the bar is so much higher for me because they're capable of such masterpieces that when they want to do a light film, here's a comparison. And maybe I'll do this one some other day. Steven Soderbergh, capable of some masterpieces. Some of his films are just flat out brilliant. But most of the time when he makes a movie that's kind of a stinker for me, I'm not as disappointed as I am with the Coen Brothers. Their styles are so different. But Steven Soderbergh plays in a lot of different areas and a lot of different scripts. He's done such a variety of movies, and that might be a good one to do sometime. The Coen Brothers, their scripts are always so smart. And Burn After Reading is a smart script. It just wasn't funny to me. So, allergies. Now, I've got another D tier here, and it's The Serious Man. I couldn't wait for this movie to be over. I could not wait for it to be over. I hate this movie. I hate it. Now, it has nothing to do with the religion of any of the characters in it. It has zero to do with any of that. It is inspired by the Torah / Bible. He is so put upon through the entire film. As an exercise in basically making an updated biblical tale, fine. Zero interest in it. And I watched it and I fucking hated it. Just hated it. And when it was over, I just was like, that's an hour and 50 minutes I'm not going to get back. And I will never watch it again. But one thing came out of it. The meme of the chalkboard with all the scribbling all over it and he's standing there by it. There's like a meme that came out of that. Congratulations, you got a meme out of your movie. Look, people defend this too. Like Coen Brothers, every one of these movies has huge defenders. I can't defend A Serious Man. I can't defend Burn After Reading. I can maybe defend Intolerable Cruelty a tiny bit. Okay. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? This movie was a hit. A huge, huge hit. And I will put it as a B because the soundtrack got all the attention, and for good reason, right? It's kind of this bluegrass thing going on that some of the songs in it were really good, and I don't even like that style of music, but everyone, all they wanted was the soundtrack. The plot itself was trying to be like a 30s serial type movie, and the guy's escaping from jail, and it didn't really click for me, but it's well filmed. I like the period that they're in. The music's damn good. Just the whole gimmick of him trying to find the right pomade, I didn't care. But well cast, and look, if you're into bluegrass, you got to see the movie. It's A+ for you, Riz. I love it. It's such a fun movie. It is a fun movie. And that's why I can't put it lower than a B, because it is a fun movie. I just didn't make a personal connection to it. It's definitely above Ladykillers. The Man Who Wasn't There. This is a C as well, although I'll put it slightly ahead. I'll put it in between Hudsucker and Hail Caesar. All black and white, kind of a film noir. Billy Bob Thornton. Once was enough for me with this movie. It's not terrible, but it's just, it's another one of those where the script is probably better than the movie, but it looked fantastic. The black and white cinematography, so good, and the performances are okay. It didn't really have much of a reason to exist by the time it was over. Lane says, hold on. Oh, brother, is high A for sure. There ain't a bad scene in that movie. Okay, hey, you and Riz together, I totally get it. And I could have it as an A- for me. I didn't enjoy it as much as some other people did. Doesn't mean it's a bad movie. Oh, Barton Fink. Oh my God. There are film nerds out there that will have me drawn and quartered for not making it an S, but it's an A. It's a high A, but it's an A. Probably John Turturro's best performance, or one of his top 3 performances. Barton Fink it's surreal. It's one of the only surreal type films they've ever done, and not surreal like Salvador Dali, but it's out there a little bit more than the rest of their stuff, and that's saying something. And he is a writer, okay? But it's a period film, and I'm not going to explain much. I don't want to give it away. It's a film that much like Miller's Crossing, it rewards repeated viewings. In fact, I would say everything in this S tier and Barton Fink reward repeated viewings. Raising Arizona, Inside Llewyn Davis, good movies, very good movies. Once is probably enough, but if you watch them again, you'll find things. Blood Simple, one and done is fine with that. You kind of need to see Barton Fink, Miller's Crossing, and the rest of these more than once for them to really click. All right, True Grit. It's a C. I've seen the original, and I've seen the remake. The remake is okay. I don't get why the Coen Brothers chose to remake it, because the original True Grit is a pretty good movie. I mean, if you're into westerns, and I'd be fine with the Coen Brothers doing an original western, or having a script given to them that made sense for them to do. To remake True Grit, I was kind of like, if you're going to do a western, why remake a John Wayne film? It just doesn't make any sense. Jeff Bridges annoyed the crap out of me in this movie. And I'm sorry. I love Jeff Bridges. Dude, get well soon. His performance was a little too corny for me. And it's an okay movie. But the fact that Coen Brothers took 2 years or whatever out of their time to make that, they could have made a better western. They could have found a better script instead of a remake. That's where I sit with that. Now, you want to talk a western? Ballad of Buster Scruggs. This is A or B for me. I don't know where to put it. This is tough. I'm putting it as a high B, and here's why. It's vignettes, so there's like 4 stories that come together. Is it 4 or 5? The Liam Neeson one is S tier. It is so... It's incredible. The one with James Franco, it's funny. It's Coen Brothers doing their humor. The Liam Neeson bit, if you don't see this movie, that's fine. But if you can at least see the Liam Neeson section, it will affect you. If it doesn't affect you, something's wrong. And the way it's edited is just amazing. It is some of the best work the Coen Brothers have ever done. The rest of the film around it is middling to good. So I'm putting it as a B because of that one. Oh God, is it an A-? It's an A-. It's an A-. It is. I've got to give it more props than that. True Grit is a D for you. Yeah, I mean, as a movie, it's perfectly fine. It's just not what I wanted from them. So, okay, let's zoom in on this. Is my head in the way? How are we feeling with these tiers? For me, D tier. Let's start from the bottom. Serious Man is my least favorite Coen Brothers film. Burn After Reading, second least favorite. Intolerable Cruelty, completely innocuous and doesn't really need to exist, but it's not offensively bad. It doesn't make me regret the time that I spent watching it like the other two. So, high D. Maybe that's a D and these two are D minuses. Alright, C. Hail Caesar. Boring. Looks the part. Great cast. Decent performances. Wasn't funny to me at all. True Grit. Why remake that? I don't understand. Why? Should True Grit be ahead of Hail Caesar? Yes. Hudsucker was an early film of theirs, so I'll forgive some of the things with that film, but it's still okay. Yeah, I like the way I've got these ranked right here. You haven't seen most of these. Well, Riz, we'll get to the S tier, and I'll start telling you where you need to go. The Lady Killers. Maybe almost a C+. Maybe. It's a little more watchable than any of these films down here, so we'll leave it as a B-. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? B+. Maybe even an A-. God, you know, now that I think about Oh Brother, this is tough because I kind of feel like Oh Brother does deserve a little more credit. It's slapsticky cornball. It's supposed to be. So for my saying that anything's corny in it, it's kind of like it's doing that on purpose. It's winking at you the whole time. Yeah, it's an A. It's got to be an A. And it's ahead of Inside Llewyn Davis. And it's got to be ahead of that too. It has to be. So I'm going to put Inside Llewyn Davis down here as a B+. I have to. Oh Brother is a fun movie. It is fun. It's meant to be fun. It's not meant to be anything more than that. So I will give it its props. I will move it up into the A tier. Again, if we were rating Buster Scruggs just on that one vignette of Liam Neeson. By the way, that's on Netflix. You can go watch it if you have a Netflix account. If we were rating it just on that, that's S tier. But the rest of the film around it is okay. All is forgiven now. No, it wasn't peer pressure. No, I'm looking at it compared to what's around it. See, when I first do the tier maker and I put a movie or a food somewhere, that's my gut reaction. But when I start putting everything else around it, it starts to tell more of a story, and you're like, oh, you know what? No, this is actually better than this. So, y'all did not influence me on this. Okay, maybe a little bit. Blood Simple is better than Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, as far as I'm concerned, and it is one of the best cinematic debuts from a director ever. It is really that good. Like I mentioned earlier, the pacing is a little bit off in the middle for me, but it's still a really good movie. Raising Arizona is just another fun movie, kind of like Oh Brother Art Thou, but it's a little more wacky. Well, Oh Brother's pretty wacky too, but Raising Arizona is supposed to be... Yeah, man. No. I can't put Oh Brother up there with Raising Arizona. For a second, I'm like, they're kind of similar in some ways. No. Nick Cage puts that higher up. Barton Fink is a one-of-a-kind film. There is nothing like it. And I think the rest of the S tier is going to be very similar. You're going to be able to say there's nothing else like it out there. Barton Fink, that's all I'm going to say. If you haven't seen it, and if you're a film fan at all, and you like a little weird, a little surreal, Barton Fink is worth watching. John Goodman and John Turturro are both fantastic in it. Go check it out. All right, S tier. So that's my ranking for the A's. I'm happy with that. Miller's Crossing needs to be at the back of this list, but it's still an S. And it rewards multiple views for sure. It's not as enjoyable from a straight pure entertainment aspect. It's a little more film nerdy. Kind of like Barton Fink is a little bit more film nerdy too, but not as much. But these top 3 films all can be enjoyed just cinematically or just for fun. However you want to watch them. But every one of these top 3 is better the second time. I hesitate to change the order of this. There's no way that if someone said, what's the best Coen Brothers film? I spit out Big Lebowski. Like, I don't even think twice. So there's no way that I would put Fargo or No Country for Old Men ahead of Big Lebowski. The question for me now is, Fargo or No Country for Old Men? If you're just looking at Oscars, No Country for Old Men should be up higher. If you're looking at well, Oscars don't mean shit. Let's be honest. It's tough. Fargo is an amazing film. No Country for Old Men is an amazing film. And, you know, there might be people out there who don't like No Country for Old Men, and I understand that. There might be people out there that don't like Fargo. They might think it's slow. I understand all those arguments. I disagree, but I understand where they're coming from. I'm going to say this. I've seen Fargo more times than I've seen No Country for Old Men. I've probably seen Fargo 9 or 10 times. I'm not exaggerating. No Country for Old Men I've seen 4 or 5 times. But it's a recency bias that's making me want to put No Country for Old Men ahead of Fargo. It's not the Oscars. The way the film ends is it feels a little bit flat. The first time I saw it, I felt like it was a little bit of a flat ending. The second time I saw it, when I fully accepted that it's an allegory, you can't end it better than that. It's the perfect ending for the film. And it is a reminder that there is pure evil in this world. And in a way, I think No Country for Old Men has a little bit more to say than Fargo does about the human condition. Fargo has a lot to say, and it's funny when it does it. And the wood chipper scene is forever S tier, God tier. I'm putting No Country for Old Men just a tiny bit ahead of Fargo, but we're talking like a tenth of a point. We're talking the Russian judge came in. I'm sorry, the Russian Olympic Committee judge. They are so close. It is a tough one, Lane. You're absolutely right. The lack of score in No Country makes the whole movie. And that's the thing. They didn't have any score in the film. It was all tension building throughout the entire film. And Fargo, the music comes in at the right places, but God, No Country for Old Men is just... Saying that film is better than Fargo is a coin toss. Because if I had done this tier maker yesterday, I might have said Fargo is the better film. But they're both incredible, and if you haven't seen any of these 4 films, I only hesitate to recommend Miller's Crossing because it's a little bit more film nerdy. But it's a really damn good script. These 3 right here, come on. If you haven't seen Big Lebowski or No Country for Old Men or Fargo, I gotta question your dedication to watching movies. All right? I'm not judging. I'm just giving you a chance to fix it right now. well, after this stream is over, or if you're watching this on YouTube, after this YouTube video is over, to go and seek them out. Whichever one you haven't seen, these are cinematic blind spots if you haven't seen them, and you need to fill them as soon as possible. So, mood-based favorites. Well, that's kind of how this works, right? It's all opinion. This isn't objective. It's subjective. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the lens they used in this film is better than the lens in this film, and therefore this movie's better. Like, it's not like that. I wish they did more movies like that. I love the feeling you're standing near those people overhearing their conversation. Anytime a movie or a TV show just throws you in the middle of something and assumes that it either assumes you know, or it assumes that you're smart enough to figure it out on your own. The Wire. That show is probably my favorite drama on television of all time, even more than Breaking Bad, because it just throws you in, and it's the way people talk, it's the way drug dealers talk, it's the way cops talk. It feels so authentic, and it just throws you in, and you feel like you're listening. You feel like you're eavesdropping, and that's the thing with a lot of this film. And by the way, Fargo, there's one scene that I would change. There's one scene, and this is another reason why I put Fargo behind No Country for Old Men. I think No Country for Old Men is perfect as it is. I don't think I would change a single minute of that film. But in Fargo, when Marge goes on that little dinner date with the Asian friend from school, it is a complete non sequitur that has nothing to do with the movie. They wanted to give you a little bit of a view into her as a character dealing with a different situation. It's unnecessary, and they've admitted it in an interview. They're like, yeah, we just put that in because we wanted to. That's fine. Usually you can't get away with that. They did, and it's okay. I would have cut it out. I know The Big Lebowski is one of the ones that I should see. Yeah, Riz, you should. It's so incredibly funny, and it's intelligent as it's funny, but it also is dick jokes. Like, it's very Rick and Morty before Rick and Morty, where Rick and Morty can be smart and stupid at the same time. The Big Lebowski is smart and stupid at the same time. It's so well done when it's stupid. It takes really smart people to write that type of dialogue. And I don't want to say more than that. I'm not trying to make it sound like you're smart if you watch the movie. I'm not going there, all right? It takes someone of a certain IQ to like this TV show. We're not doing the meme. But Big Lebowski is one of the funniest films I've ever seen. And I'll leave it at that. I don't mind dick jokes. Well, fire away. But it isn't even really dick jokes. I'm trying to say the bar of, if you're doing dick jokes, they can do lowbrow humor in a film that has highbrow aspirations at the same time. They pull it off so well in the Big Lebowski. You have to see it to understand, like, to get what I'm talking about. When you do see it, you'll be like, oh, okay. Just promise me when you do watch it, it won't be on cable, that you'll watch the actual R-rated version, because there's so many swear words. You would just hear nothing but dropouts, or a really bad TV version. You don't need that. All right, that does it for this tier maker of the Coen Brothers films. There it is. There's my ranking. If you have a problem with it, or if you agree with it, throw it in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, put a comment. Tell me what your favorite Coen Brothers film is. What's your favorite Coen Brothers film, and what's your least favorite Coen Brothers film? I want to hear both of those. Otherwise, I'm feeling pretty good with this ranking, and I think that's a good place to end it.